Hi, in this module I'm going to demonstrate a feature of Microsoft Excel called conditional formatting, and it's a feature that allows me to accentuate data in a spreadsheet so that I can identify trends and patterns. And the data set that I have here represents data that's being maintained on students who are majoring in some area of computer science. So it's a pretend set of data, and to be perfectly upfront about it, the names were imported from a Microsoft Access relational database, and in a subsequent lecture I'll demonstrate how to import data from other sources to include a relational database. But for now, just realize that these names were not names that I typed in. I borrowed these, and so I've created a data set that might be used by a department chair to continually monitor the progress of students, and I would keep track of the matriculation year, the specific major. So the department offers an information systems major as opposed to a computer science major, as opposed to a business information systems major, and so forth. I keep track of the total hours that each student has earned toward graduation in column D, and I keep track of the total hours that the student has earned toward their major in column E. So of that 100 hours, 42 hours are hours that can be applied to the major. And then I calculate a percentage that again shows the percentage of hours earned toward the major as opposed to the total hours earned. And so I do a calculation out here. I'll show you the calculation. I just divide the hours that are earned in the major by the total number of hours and multiply through by 100. It gives me a percentage. So 24 is 36% of the total 66 hours earned, is what I'm saying, if we look at that very last row down here. All right, so I have put in a formula over here to calculate a percentage, and then along row 28 in columns D and E, I've entered in a sum function to add up the total number of hours here and add up the total number of hours here. Okay, and now I want to apply conditional formatting. So we're going to pretend maybe that an employer is planning to come on campus and maybe interview students for internships, and that the employer has said, well, I'm only interested in students who have completed the basic core courses, and I determined that the basic core courses constitute 24 hours of the total major. So what I'd like to do is to accentuate the student names where the student has earned at least 24 hours, 24 or more hours. So how am I going to do that? Well, I want to colorize the names. I want to make them stand out, maybe make them appear with a yellow background fill color. So I'm going to go to the data that I want to affect and highlight it, and I want to keep in mind that that magic number of 24 is going to appear in column E. So once I highlight the names that I would like to accentuate, and any name associated with a value greater than 24 should be highlighted in the end. Once I've highlighted that range of names, I go to the home page, choose conditional formatting, and I have a number of options that are available. So I'm only going to demonstrate this a couple of times, demonstrate a couple of variations on conditional formatting. And once you see how it's done, then if you need to apply some other detailed technique, you should be able to consult authoritative sources on the internet or the help files or wherever you can find the information and figure out how to apply other features that are available. But for now, what I'm going to choose is not one of the easy options, but rather to create a rule based upon the data in a spreadsheet. And so I get a dialog box in response, and I want to tell it that I want to create a rule based upon a formula. So I'm going to go ahead and click this option. And when I do, then I need to, through this text box, write the rule. And I need to write the rule in reference to column E. Okay, even though I want to affect the coloration in column A, the rule is going to be based on the data in column E. And when I write the rule, it always seems a little strange to me, and sometimes I have to go back and, if I haven't done this for a while, review how it's done. But I write the rule based upon the top row in the data that I want to affect. So the top row in the data that I want to affect in this case is row 2. So I want to make the rule based upon row 2, and like formulas and functions that we've seen before, it begins with an equal sign. Then I want to refer to the cell address in the column that I need to examine, which is going to be column E. So in this case, I'll look at E2. And what I want to see is whether or not it has a value greater than or equal to 24. So my formula will read E2 greater than or equal to 24, one continuous string of characters without any spaces. That's the rule. And then the next thing I need to do is to tell it what are the formatting characteristics I want to apply for any cell that that meets this requirement, that this rule evaluates true for. And so I'm going to click on the Format button and keep it fairly simple. I'm going to use a fill color, and as I mentioned, I'll use yellow. Okay, that should make the data stand out. And then tell it OK, and then tell it OK. And then when I go back to the spreadsheet, I find that I have certain names highlighted based upon the data that it examined in this range. So let's see whether it actually works. If 24 is the threshold, then obviously these two should not have been highlighted, and these three should not have been, and so these two should have been. Okay, so here's a boundary test right there at 24. It's always good to look at data that sits right on the boundary of any kind of test. So I was checking for greater than or equal 24. There's a value 24. And let's see, do I have anything that says maybe 23? No, I don't guess so. I would, if I were really scrutinizing this, I would look for a value of 23 to make sure that it wasn't highlighted. But that's a useful technique, and now when the person comes on campus, we don't have to constantly look back and forth and see who meets their requirement, but rather, we just go ahead and put in the rule, let it colorize things, and we can just, stay focused on column A, and we've identified all the students that meet the employer's criteria. All right, so that's a way of doing this. Now, another way of doing this, let's see, how do I want to do it, would be to look at how these individual values compare to each other within the range. All right, so what I'd like to use is a conditional formatting feature called data bars, and if I highlight the data here, it's going to allow me to colorize each cell with a bar that has a length relative to the other data in this range. So to give you an example, we've got someone here with looks like the highest number of hours is 52. That person should have a bar that goes all the way across the cell, and we have someone else that has a value of 12. When their cell is colorized, the bar is going to be much shorter. and at a glance I can, look down this set of data, and where I see bars that are longer than others, I know that those pertain to students that have earned more hours. Okay, so you may or may not have followed that rambling description of things, but let me highlight the cells and apply some data bars, and you can see for yourself what I'm talking about. So after highlighting the cells in the range, in this case E2 through E26, I'm going to go again to the home page and find the conditional formatting tool, click it, and this time I'm going to choose, remember where this is, I'm going to choose data bars. Okay, so this is a real easy thing to apply. So I'm going to choose data bars, and then we're going to mouse over, okay, and I can see the different colors and so on and so forth that I can make it. So, since I'm colorblind, they all look good to me. So I'm going to choose orange, okay, and when I click, then it applies data bars to all of the data. And as predicted, since 52 is the highest value in the range, this cell and this cell have a data bar that spans the entire width of the column and in the cell, the entire width of the cell. And for this one, the data bar is much shorter. Okay, so again, just a way of being able to make sense out of a large set of data. Now, again, in this spreadsheet, I'm using about 25 rows of data, and this actually does, in my opinion, make the data a little easier to interpret, even with 25 rows. But if I had 25,000 rows of data and I was looking for certain patterns, then you could really appreciate how this can make the data easier to work with. Okay, so that is my presentation. Actually, before I do this, I'm going to show you one other thing. So after you have examined the data, after the employer has left, maybe another employer is going to be coming, and they have a different criteria for the students that they want to identify. Maybe they want people that have only had 1 or 2 courses. Okay, highly unlikely they would want that, but nevertheless, their criteria is different. So what can you do to get rid of this? Once the conditional formatting has served its purpose and you're done with it, you can go back, highlight the data that's been affected, the range of data that's been affected, and then go to conditional formatting again, and you've got an option to clear rules on selected cells or clear rules from the entire sheet. I'll choose from the selected cells and leave the data bars still there. Had I chosen the other option, everything would have been cleared. Okay, that concludes my lecture on conditional formatting.